Black Champions, February 13th, 1985, Nelson Vails. Vails. Camera roll 55, sound roll 27, sound 83.
Nelson Vails, you were quoted in Los Angeles as saying that in the world of cycling, you are what you train. Maybe you'd expand on that a little bit. What is the daily training routine for someone like Nelson Vails?
Well, the season from, I would say, the end of October right on up till August, it begins early weights, low mileage, and then you gain on a lot of weight training, which is 3 times a week, up to 3 hours in the weight room, to an hour to 2 hours on a bicycle. And this becomes a weekly process, which becomes, after 3 months, you don't increase so much by weights and so many mileage to where you begin your race season. And then you basically, you tone and then you slack down on your program. Due to various races that you have throughout the season, that's what you train for.
In the racing season, do you have both sprints? Or do you race both sprints and extended races? Or how do you select?
Basically, I'm a sprinter. Only ride the track races.
You said that you received your first bike for Christmas. Obviously, that wasn't a racing bike, however. Tell us a little bit about the first racing bike you got.
Wow, that was a long time ago. I guess your average... Actually, my first real bike was a miniature racing bike that I believe was selected by my older brother. And I learned to ride that. And I picked up on that very quickly. And each year from there, I received a bicycle every Christmas.
Where did you learn to ride? Where were you doing your bike riding as a youngster?
In the neighborhood of Harlem, 115th Street between 5th and Lenox, and Martin Luther King Towers.
Okay, when you say you weren't racing, obviously, in the street, you were just sort of getting familiar with the bike? Is that
I just learned how to ride a bicycle.
Do you remember your first competitive effort as a cyclist?
Yeah. I borrowed a bicycle for one of the early annual Harlem Day races, which was held on Father's Day each year in Mount Morris Park. And I did one of the novice races, which is like a quarter-mile type race. And I had got third. And that year, they were awarding prizes to Disneyland and a free bicycle and a whole bunch of things for the winner. And I lost, and I had got third. And that was a real upsetting thing, real disappointing thing to make me wanna for the following year.
Tell us how old you were when this happened.
Wow, I don't think I can count back that far. It's difficult. It was a long time, 1973. I can remember much so because it was a small trophy, and I remember the date being stamped in there.
Who would encourage you first to go into bike racing?
It's hard to say. There was no encouragement at all. It was just something I picked up.
Now, perhaps you describe for us the map of the world of cycling. Where do you go today for the big meets? Where are the centers of cycling in the world?
Eastern Europe. The Grand Prix, which is in East Germany and Czechoslovakia, where you get the best of the best people from all over the world that compete on these little weekend events in different Eastern European countries. You go to Moscow and train, and then go on to race at the different cities.
Where have you been on that cycle? Can you tell us about some of the places that you recall especially?
My first real Eastern European trip was Warsaw, Poland. That was a 10-day thing. And I began to like it a lot. It's a usual trip for me now to go to Czechoslovakia, the Grand Prix of Brno and the Grand Prix of Prague. And those are very big events because you get the top 8 to 20 guys in the world.
Give me a list of all the countries you've ever visited in the comments.
And if you make the finals with that, then you're doing well at that time of the year.
Peter Westbrook, the fencer, we interviewed a few weeks ago, said that Americans are not very highly regarded in the world of fencing, and the centers are pretty much the same in Eastern Europe. What's the reception of American cyclists in places like Czechoslovakia, Warsaw, Poland?
Well, it's one of the sports such as football, soccer in America. It's bicycle racing and auto racing. A lot of times the Marlboro cigarettes. It's growing because Americans are now recognized, in particular in cycling and bicycle racing alone. Americans are not rated as like the 8th country, and now we're the top 3.
Are you one of the few, or perhaps the only black cyclist on the circuit that you're competing in now?
Basically, one of the centerpieces on the international circuit. There's another gentleman named Scott Berryman, and he's a black gentleman. He's racing. He's sponsored by a corporate sponsor this year, 7-Eleven, and he's the 3rd or the 4th man on the totem pole of the sprinters.
Where do you rank on the totem pole of the sprinters?
2nd in the world. 2nd.
To Mark Gorski?
Yes.
I wonder if you talk about the community of outstanding cyclists in the world. I mean, who are the top competitors? Who are the people that you expect to be competing against in the finals and events?
It's hard to say right now. That doesn't grow on one until August. Basically after June, when the international events are over with in Europe and in the United States, and you prepare yourself for national competition, which is important for the corporate sponsors, and the World Championships, which is the same week as what the Olympics was held for cycling.
When you reached the Olympics in Los Angeles, who were the people, who were the most highly regarded people going into the Olympics?
Number 1, Mark Gorski. I was very well underrated, which I didn't realize. That was no big thing. A gentleman that didn't qualify for the top 8, which was a gentleman, Nakataki of Japan, and Gerhard Scheller from West Germany. And good old hard-earned training, old-fashioned training, got me to where I am now.
There's a lot of myth about your work as a messenger, but actually you were already competing as a cyclist when you didn't begin your cycling career as a messenger, but perhaps a little bit the other way around. Could you tell us about how that story got started? I mean, everybody says he was a messenger and then became a cyclist, but you already competed when you were working as a messenger.
I believe someone just took it and promoted a good story to get things started. It is true that it did help my cycling somewhat, but it also is true that I didn't get my start as a messenger. I had become a messenger due to the fact that I was leaving New York to go to the Olympic Training Center to train. So from an indoor 9 to 5, I went to an outdoor job, which I was on my bicycle more times during the day, and I still trained early morning or late evening.
When you say it helped you, how would messengering help your cycling?
Basically just dealing with New York City traffic. And a particular event that I do, you have to be aware and on your toes.
You get up to speeds of about 35, 40 miles an hour?
40 to 45 miles an hour.
Excuse me. What happens then? Most of us, everybody rides a bicycle, but I don't think most people know what it's like to be on a bike 40, 45 miles an hour. Maybe you could tell us something about that. What are the things that you really have to be doing at that speed to maintain the speed and obviously to maintain yourself on the bike?
Well, number 1, as a sprinter, it's a 1,000 meter event, and it's a head-to-head competition. So it's just you and your opponent, and between you and your opponent, each individual would think that they're in control of the race and the situation that they're in. And it's a big wind-up of about 500 meters. So with 1 lap to go, the pace begins to quicken, and they time the last 200 meters, which you reach speeds up to 40, 45 miles an hour. And it's like a high-speed chess match. You always have to be on your toes, always thinking about what's going to get you across the line first, no matter what happens. That's the name of the game.
What kind of chess moves? Maybe you could describe some of them for us. How do you, let's say you're starting a 1,000-meter race now against, let's say, one of the top other cyclists in the world. What kind of things do you have to think about?
Well, first of all, you go to the line with a game plan. It's like going into the huddle with the game plan, and then the blitz comes on. So the play is foiled. So as soon as you leave the line, a lot of times your game plan does not work. That's what I mean by being on your toes, of aware of what you're doing and making the right move and thinking about what you do before you do it. Because you have very little time to make up for it, if you make up for it.
Maybe you describe one of your game plans for us. What would Nelson Vails be thinking about? What would the game plan be, let's say, as you approach the line?
Okay, let's say I draw second position and the guy is fast, such as someone like Mark Gorski. Gentleman's fast, so once he gets going, it's going to be very difficult to get around him. So the thing is to either jump the guy early, which is taking off early with 2 laps to go. You can take off any time you want, as long as you get across the line first. So it's either making your move early or slowing the pace to where you can get the edge of a better jump on your opponent. And he should always have his eye on you and you have your eye on him. And it's really hard to explain without actually pinpointing.
We're gonna shake that.
Okay. Hit it. Sound 84.
Nelson, I learned to ride, excuse me, when I learned to ride a bike as a kid, the big thing for me was my balance. I was never really concerned with speed on a bike. How does that function for racing cyclists? Is your balance something that has to be developed to a very fine point?
Well, at a young age, you learn to balance on your bicycle, and it's something that you would never forget. And a particular event such as the sprint, sometimes you have to stop at one point on the velodrome and balance yourself. And to me, the higher the banking is, the smoother the track, the more comfortable I would be if I was to have to come to a standstill position.
Where are the best velodromes?
Number 1, Moscow, Caracas, Venezuela, Colorado Springs. There's one in Italy that's supposed to be really good that the World Championships will be on. They're building a new one in Louisiana for the sports festival this year. And as soon as the United States get up to date on some indoor velodromes, I think we will have the best racing in the world because the United States can basically afford it.
Have you received much coaching in your career?
A great deal. Still don't know anything.
Tell us about your coach and tell us about the coaches in the sport who are perhaps the outstanding teachers and coaches.
Well, beginning with 1980 when I shook some hands and met the staff of the national coaching staff. From then on, right up until 82 when I did finally get a chance to go to the Olympic Training Center, things just started happening, such as the proper coaching of lifting weights properly, pedaling properly, well positioned on your bicycle, and just feeling around and knowing what I want to do, which is the sprints. And so the key point was to just focus on the different exercises for the event that I had to look forward to. And right up till this day, I'm still learning. There's always a lesson to be learned in the match sprints because every ride is different.
I wonder if you talk about some of the coaches, the people who've coached you, and some of the coaches you have a great respect for throughout the sport. Who would they be?
Well, the head coach is a gentleman by the name of Eddie Błaszczewicz. He's known as Eddie B. He's from Poland. He came in, I believe, 76, 77 to the United States to coach the cycling team here, and basically built the program, changed it around, built it up right up to 84. And that's the key point on a lot of good results. And from an athlete standpoint of view, of respecting your coach and listen to what needs to be said, that's what got a lot of results for the cycling team this year.
Were there any outstanding cyclists from the Eastern European countries or from the Soviet Union who did not compete, who you expect to compete against in the future? Who would they be?
Louis Hetzler and company from East Germany, Sergei Karpilov and company from the Soviet Union, and there's only like 2 Czechoslovakians.
Who did not compete
Yes.
at Los Angeles. If someone were to bring, let's say, a son, a nephew, or a neighbor to you and say, Nelson, I've got a young kid here, he's interested in being a cyclist, he greatly admires you and he wants to pursue a career, what would you be looking for here? What would the kind of, maybe the temperament or the kind of body build, or whatever, what would you look for in a youngster?
Well, for me, that's very hard to answer right now because, like I said, I'm still learning myself, and I'm not in any real position to coach anyone along. It's hard for me to say because, like I said, I really don't know as much as people would appear to. I'm very intelligent as far as what my goals are, but for a young athlete that wants to get started, it's a difficult point because I've given up a lot. I've given up my life for cycling, and you got to basically wanna really do it in order to be successful at it, because in the years to come it will grow as a professional sport. You have European athletes that are receiving up to $1 million now.
What are your goals? Talk a little bit about that.
Basically, to be successful in the next 4 years in bicycle racing. It's not a lot of people misunderstand. The public misunderstands that you would think every 4 years the Olympics. That's only for an event such as, I use an event such as like the shot put or something. That's a 4-year event. Cycling, it's every weekend, and the big race rolls around every year, which is the World Championships, and that's where the world will appear.
Talk about what you have to do to maintain your conditioning edge, your sharpness. Perhaps you talk a little bit about your diet. What do you have to do on a day-to-day basis to be competition sharp?
Basically, stay flexible, a lot of stretching. You have to do your mileage, the basic road miles every day, and if there's a weight session day, whatever the program is that the national coaching staff sets, that's what should be followed, such as breakfast, meeting, ride, exercise, maybe an easy ride, and also what's important is a nap.
What kind of diet do you set?
I don't have a diet.
You just eat anything you want?
I just eat. I'm not a health food type guy. I prefer more of the junk, such as the good vegetables that are good for you don't apply to me.
Besides the Olympics, you've answered it. You talked about the national championships. But are there any outstanding meets, perhaps, that you haven't mentioned? Is something you would look forward to in this next year that you'd say, I'm pointing specifically at this competition because the best may be there?
Well, it's the World Championships, which will be held somewhere in Italy in the first week of August. And that's where the world will have their eye on Mark Gorski and Nelson Vails, because we're the 2 Olympic champions. And for the World Championships that will be held in the United States in 1986, it's a one-shot deal to have a good seeding for the following year. So it's like a must to do well in order to make your job easier in 86. It's the more you win, the less you run. It's always a weak seed against a strong seed.
One thing we certainly know one thing we certainly know about Nelson Vails, both from what you said yourself and what we've read, is that a great deal of hard work has gone into this career. But what else about Nelson Vails would people like to know? If you were to describe yourself, who is Nelson Vails? Tell us about Nelson.
Wow, that's difficult. General, all-around nice guy. Fun to be around, I suppose. I'm one that probably always gets himself in trouble, but don't really mean any harm. It's just about it. It's hard for me to really continue on. You really got to get me going.
Okay, well, you said before, you made, I thought, an interesting statement. You said you've given up your life for cycling. I mean, you really made a choice at some point, obviously, to sacrifice a great deal to achieve some goals in cycling. Could you explore that with us?
Well, beginning with working a 9-to-5 job, to become a bike messenger, to continue on, to leave that job to become a full-time cyclist, beginning with the Olympic Training Center. I have a wife and 2 kids. My family, most of my family is here in New York, and I chose to live in California because that's where the training is. And I'm away from home 12 months out of the year. Basically trying to follow a training program, training centers, and going with the flow of the national training system. And so you give up a lot of friends that are here in New York, and you go on to explore and do newer and bigger things.
What if you go back a little bit for us now? Let me talk about growing up. What kind of a kid were you? Who's in your family? What kind of neighborhood did you grow up in?
I grew up in a good neighborhood. A lot of people misinterpret that, you think Harlem young Nelson Vails, baby of 10, and a lot of stereotypical people would think that, I had to live in a basement, a room of 6 kids. And my neighborhood is a general, all-around nice neighborhood. A lot of people, like I said, just misinterpret. I was a brat of a kid when I grew up, a crybaby. And I learned the hard way of you can't have everything. And I think it's worked out to the best of my knowledge, to the best for me, to become a better human being.
What's it going to take for you to win a gold medal at the next Olympics if you decide to compete in the next Olympics?
A lot more self-discipline within the next year.
Tell us about that. What specifically?
It's hard to say right now because 88 is so far away. It's basically the World Championships. And the main goal is to rebuild for 86. The World Championships will be held in the United States, just like the Olympics for me. It's rolling around again in 2 years. And that's the main goal, to do well for the country, for myself, here in the United States.
Can we cut any? Sure can. Hold on just one second. Take it, please.
Flag champions, Nelson Vails. Camera roll 57, sound roll 28, sound 85.
Nelson, perhaps you talk a little bit about the atmosphere at the Olympics. For those of us who weren't there, saw it on television, what was it like for you?
You missed it. If you wasn't there, blew a good week. Weather-wise?
Well,
Actually, what it is that the electrifying thrill of the energy that the people, not only the American people, but just the people alone that was at the velodrome. And you're all encased in the stadium, and when your name is announced, and you go out there and you do your thing and get some results, and then, before you get off your bike to end your day, you just feel so good about, doing what you're doing and accomplishing what's happening for the daily program. And just the Olympic week, the Olympic fever was so well promoted for all the athletes, I think. It's just a great feeling. That too bad we all can't do it again.
Did you get to know many of the athletes? Or do you have time, really, to...
Basically just the cycling athletes. You meet a few new ones, but basically all the top athletes, the guys that made the top 8, you see weekend after weekend, different countries. And those are the guys that are generally to beat. You know who's going, like how, what time of the year. And then you don't see each other till the World Championships roll around. And then you see what's happening then. You keep tab. Actually, you watch everybody race their first and second round, and you make notes, because someday during the week you may have to meet up with that person.
Tell us about Mark Gorski.
I don't really know much as far as he's been around a lot longer than I have. He's been around ever since an intermediate age of like 11, 12, 13. I guess cycling was brought to him through family, I suppose. And he was old when I first began racing and found out I wanted to be a sprinter. He was a national champion already, so a lot of catching up I had to do. Very well respected athlete throughout the world from his accomplishments. And it's a great guy, and I'm sorry he doesn't get as much attention as he deserved for winning a gold medal, because it was a lot of hard work. It was 8 years of his time, because he was on a team that didn't go in 80.
If someone were to ask you what it's like to be a champion, or someone was to say to you, finish a sentence like to be a champion, etc., etc., what would Nelson Vails say?
Don't do it. Get to do things like this. It's hard to say. I don't consider myself a champion at all. It's hard for me to appreciate my silver medal right now, because in my particular event, cycling, it's a head-to-head competition. Silver right now is still a losing spot to me. It's just making me work harder to get a gold. Only thing I ever really won was a Pan Am gold medal. Was the first American to go 10.6 seconds. Winning national championships that Mark didn't attend. That was during the same week as the Olympics. And that was one of my main accomplishments, was to win a national championship.
You will meet Mark Gorski, I assume, at the World Championships.
All this year. It's we have to travel together all this year. Where he goes or where I go, we have to go and do it together. and that way we'll meet as many times as we can throughout the year before the World Championships.
Tell us then how important the championship is for you. What it's going to mean. What will it do to your life, to your career? Do you want to win that and then go on to do some other things? Or do you want to... Incidentally, one of the questions I meant to ask you before, how long does one cycle? How old are cyclists?
I would say right up to 30 years old. To be a champion, to be more successful than I am now, takes 100% of good results. It's a future. There's a future behind cycling. Many people say with a personality like mine, I can go a long way. It's hard for me to believe that right now. And in order for me, if no results, no future. Just like the Olympics, no podium, no press, no publicity. And so that was the main goal, was to not get fourth place, not go there and not do anything. The main thing was that now I'm here, now I have to do something. And which I accomplished that, and it helped me out a great deal for the future that lies ahead.
Ray, that future that lies ahead, what would you like to be doing 10, 15, 20 years down the road? Where are you headed after cycling?
My main attempt is to be successful before the age of 30 financially. Hopefully I can do well with a major television station, some commentary, or just some expertise analyzing on different things such as films and movies, anything that has to do with cycling. Or maybe not, I can get in other different fields, anything that basically has to do with television, advertising, commercials. I don't think I can be a good actor to be successful.
You've got two daughters, Shaniqua, is it, and Imani?
Yes.
Would you encourage them to be athletes, Olympic athletes?
No, not at all. I think the baby girl probably can be a successful athlete. The younger one is more scientifically sophisticated towards what she wants to do. My choice is women's professional golf. You know, I don't know. It's only a handful of them that are successful, and I think it's easy if you learn how. It's hard for me to say. They'll pick and choose their own future, such as I had to do. You know, I was set out there, and I had my choice of staying in the neighborhood or leaving.
Oh yeah. We came over. This is relatively new for us too. Perhaps you could tell us the story of Major Taylor. We just got this research piece yesterday. The cyclist before you. I don't know much about him, so maybe you can tell us.
Well, it's hard for me to analyze that. I read a book a long time ago on him. It's hard for me to remember very much of it.
Nelson, would you just pause a minute? When you go back and do that sentence, would you mention his name as you do the sentence?
Let's do the sentence again.
Okay.
The
So
question.
start again and say, I read a book about Major.
Okay. I read a book about Major Taylor a while back ago when I first got involved in cycling. And I don't remember too much about the book up to this day, but he was the man. In his day, he was a guy that no matter what they did, they couldn't beat him. He was unbeatable. It's really hard for me to say because too bad there's no videos or films of him to watch, to see some of the history on him, other than the books and photos. And like I said, from my understanding is that out of all his opponents and out of all the guys that used to attempt to team up on him, which they call combining today, out of all the combines against him, he would still come out victorious. And that's what made a great cyclist. And I think it was a lot of natural ability, such as something I believe I have. The magic with the magic wand and can pull a rabbit out the hat.
All right. Cut it.
Who would you like for me to do a video on next? What are your thoughts about this video? Please share them in the comments. Please be honest when answering these questions. Share this video with anyone you deem necessary. And don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel.